and director. He studied theater and graduated with a BA in English from San Jose State. In 1992, he started organizing poetry events and editing poetry books with the creation of the Ajax Lounge Poetry series. He also organized the Sofa poetry readings during the mid-90s, and in 2001, he co-created the Wave Poetry series with Ted Gehrke. He's currently a board member for Stabbydoll Media and Treasurer for Poetry Center San Jose. Bill has been an editor-in-chief of Poetry Center San Jose's literary journal, Cæsura, and the last 4 years, but will work as managing editor in 2021. Please welcome fellow PCSJ board member and my friend, Bill Cozzini.
Thank you, Lisa, so much for continuing to run all these events. I was just kind of sharing, like the last time I read was for Poetry Lounge, and that was just before the shutdown. And so I wasn't even sure if I was the last person in Willow Glen reading, whether it's for this event or another.
I think it was, because I think that was our last in-person one.
Okay, so hopefully I'm the start and the end, the alpha and the omega here.
There you go.
Back to it. And then I'll introduce, because I do have, I have a so
live audience.
So yeah, so we're
hi everybody.
Hi.
We got our
welcome.
Yeah, so we're partly live. Well, we're all live, I guess. I hope. And so Lisa, thank you so much for organizing all this stuff. I think
thank you.
I can't say I have huge ambition as a poet, but having the friends and the family appear and be able to share stuff and coalesce and put together and edit some of this stuff to keep myself slightly sane means something. So thank you. And thank you all for being here. I originally, well, I'm still calling this show End at the Light of the Tunnel and Other Lessons from Eurydice and Orpheus. I've been working on a lot of, well, I've been unmythologizing Orpheus and Eurydice and turning it into kind of like a real story. But I didn't want to read all those poems tonight. I ended up going through and I had this huge collection of stuff that the last 18 months has kind of brought out. And so this reading I'll have in 3 different sections. And the first one is COVID, Death, and Love. And the first poem is kind of the first 2 poems and the last 2 poems tonight. They're kind of twins of each other. You know how you write the same poem? And so this first poem is Mourning My Morning Morbidity. This routine of accessing charts and trends related to close family and friends, first the countries, then states. Italy, Germany, United States, California, Florida, Virginia, Alaska, Wisconsin, Illinois, Minnesota, Texas, and then some counties. Santa Clara, Santa Cruz, Placer, Napa, Marin, San Francisco, Arlington, Fairbanks, North Star, Kenai Peninsula, Dane, Milwaukee, Story. A strange collection of fears and hopes for all citizens struggling to breathe, working for sanity, family, and health. Watching this peak or that trend extend, rolling us over and under. You don't have to.
I love that.
And then, so I got my second shot on May 1st or 2nd. And this poem is it. I guess I just like in the early days when I saw Italy and New York going crazy, it just kind of breaks your heart because you can't do anything. I was having the same feelings with India. And so this poem is Coveted Tears. Just got the second shot. Sit down for a 15-minute wait and start to cry. So much loss, so many sick, so many dying, so many separated from oxygen, from hope, from love and loved ones. In the shadow of this opportunity, don't distract the nurse. Keep your head down. Pretend to study phone. Notice the earth, the helpless, the human. And this is I write a few short poems that I think they're a little obscure at first, and then I sometimes explain them. And this one, I just kind of did the explanation with the title. It's called Classic Depression Poem in the Face of a Beautiful Universe While Sitting on Mom's Porch Before Selling Her Home to Pay for Therapy.
Sorry.
With only disease, I sit there mute, brain full of voices and noise, but the sun setting on my face and the banter of birds try to wrestle me home.
Mm.
This is another short poem, similar. It would take longer to explain it than to read it, but it's 3 parts, and it's in part how much I've been missing going out and doing very vigorous outdoor activities. And well, it's called Living, Dying. 1, I want painfully cold air, the power of winter wind separating cloth from my neck. 2, bare feet facing elements, delightfully frozen and scraped, this naked traveler pulling mussels, digging clams, foraging the calories of warmth. 3, I ponder diving out this window, ready to bleed an honest moment, free from this grotesque cage of modernity.
Mm.
Thank you. And this one, I've spent a lot of the last couple of years doing a lot of planning ahead for strange contingencies, and I think it kind of removes you from the moment. So I lose track of time, forwards and back. Today's tears for the future. I'm losing too many dear people too soon. Without this release, I won't be strong enough to bear the weight of your absence. Okay, so then here's my crime poem.
Uh-oh, it's okay. It's poetry.
You cartoon, okay, good. So this was a 9-part poem or story, kind of nonfiction, some of the stuff I went through with Mom, and now it has a 10th section. And Mom, after her stroke, it really hurt her physical left side, but her brain, her sense of humor, her character are all there. And so we had a lot of wordplay with stroke. So all the stroke of genius, there's the, I'm trying to think what the book is, Stroke of Insight. And she kept saying, good old stroke. And there's a wordplay on petting animals and, well, whatever else. So good old stroke. 1, there it is, the MRI picture of the stroke, the size of a banana. Mom says the shape is like a seahorse. Seems appropriate. Her 2 days alone after the stroke, she felt like she was underwater trying to swim up. 2, almost home from weekly trip, I see a woman walking, age probably greater than her weight. Let's call her 90. In the bike lane with her walker, wearing a pink housecoat and lime green slippers. The very next day while running errands, I see her again, a mile further down the road. 3, 2 months into this recovery, Mom's left cheek muscle returns, firing up a big toothy grin, her smile almost balanced. The next day, a physical therapist tells Mom that she will never get better. She should start mourning her losses. Friends and family spend the next 2 weeks working to keep the heart behind that smile strong. I want to attack that physical terrorist. Fight or flight, morph into tears and resolve. 4, the actuarial table says Mom should be dead or in hospice. And I struggle to find a poster of the female muscular system. It has to be ordered from the UK. The number of muscles already working, once stronger, should be enough to get her home and independent. 5. Another trip home, this in winter rain. And there she is, 90, with clear plastic slickers covering her same coat and slippers, walking uphill, winter rain blowing in her face, somehow not bowled over. 6. After 100-something trips to visit mom's board and care home, I'm daydreaming and miss a right turn. Taking a new side street, I see a 6-year-old girl zigzagging her bike down the middle of her road. Proud pink handlebar tassels blowing in the breeze. She stares at me, taunting, marking her territory, a vicious wolverine. I've slowed to a near stop, lowered my window, expecting to pay a toll, and look to the left. Her older sister is parked in the driveway. The older sister looks at me, looks at her little sister, then back at me and shrugs her shoulder. 7. At the board and care home, mom is depressed. Not just symptom of stroke, but the pain and work to live life so vulnerable, so dependent. We discuss surrender and suicide. 8. 2 months after being told she wouldn't improve, mom is able to pull herself to standing. Her left calf, once limp, now pulling and pushing. As if on cue, Kaiser cancels in-home PT and OT. 9. Having spent time in skilled nursing facilities and board and care homes and hospitals and emergency rooms, I know that 90 is training. And what for? Rolling her stone with conviction, her thick pink housecoat and lime green slippers, more of a superhero costume than any brain-drained comic book fool could ever bring to reality. 10. The prescriptions to prevent another stroke did just that. Made mom's kidneys fail. And then just a quick side note, fuck statins. Okay. There's my health advice for
That was really good.
thank you. So one of the things that I was doing with the in the last year has been cleaning up, throwing things out, putting things away, and kind of tracking what you can keep and what you have to kind of get rid of. And so there are certain sentimental things at some point. Well, this is called cracked bowl and plate. I kept a small serving bowl, abstractly painted by my 3-year-old son. A gift 22 years ago, really quite lovely. We used it carefully, but eventually it cracked. These last few years, a keepsake, recently displayed with a blue ceramic plate from my mother that also cracked. Today, I threw them away. Life melted and beautiful, fragile and heavy. And so this will end the COVID, death, and love section. This is a sort of love poem. And it was kind of inspired because I've been thinking about Orpheus and Eurydice a lot, and what love means in all these different stages of our life. What's romantic, what's passionate, what's platonic, what's the word I'm forgetting? Familial. Familial is good too. What's the one I'm looking for? Unconditional. God, yeah. There's too many conditions on it. And then there's 2 songs that I really enjoy. One's called Dolphins. It's I forget who wrote it, but Terry Collier and Beth Orton sing it. And then there's Once I Was by Tim Buckley. And they talk about, do you remember me? Or will you remember? Do you ever think of me? Those kinds of things. And we do. We still remember. And it's called Knowing. A great crater, an eye on the moon, That is our impact. We remain partly blind without our heads together. These scars now handles home for new love that grips and grows stronger with less labor. But we know what we felt when the river turned. Okay. And so now here's a little funner section, I think.
Bill,
It's called In the Yard.
Bill,
Mhm.
read that one again, please. Just one more time. It was so short, and I want to hear it one more time if you don't
Sure.
mind.
It's called Knowing. A great crater, an eye on the moon. That is our impact. We remain partly blind without our heads together. These scars now handles home for new love that grips and grows stronger with less labor. But we know what we felt when the river turned. Okay, so now I'm in the yard. That's my strange yard, and I guess the poems will kind of describe themselves. This first poem is called Silk. They are called fruitless mulberries, but when you don't trim their branches back each year, they get confidence, and some of the pods or dingleberries do bring forth fruit, though they never get full purple. They usually fall while mostly white, but the rich mulberry flavor remains. Though I only experienced one mulberry tree as a child, what an amazing mess. The cluster of fruit looks like a boysenberry, just longer, and when ripe, impossibly tender. There we were, 6 children, 3 from each family, gorging on the delicate fruit, at times trying to pick without bursting the delicate pods, other grabs full of lust, a herd of purple faces and hands. But the fruitless variety, left untrimmed, made glorious large leaves, delightful shade, and roots that destroy concrete. And on my poorly trimmed tree, the branches and leaves droop over the sidewalk. Looking out my front window, I began noticing people plucking leaves, looking furtive and moving on quickly. Even people stopping in cars, jumping out and quickly stripping a branch. Finally, one day, a polite woman knocked on my door and asked if she could take some leaves. Her 6-year-old daughter holding a plastic bin with some desiccated leaves, along with some hungry silkworms, pounding out black pellets. There is a local school tradition of teaching where silk comes from. The fat caterpillars gorging relentlessly until they spin their cocoons. Silk is a dried up secretion, the cocoon, a spool of thread. These children harvesting leaves to gather thread instead of fruit, the caterpillars getting to eat. So the story went in my head until last year while rewatching Yojimbo, a Kurosawa samurai film, as Toshiro Mifune in the opening scene is walking through acres of desolate bare branches, I realize he is not walking through a vineyard as my mind chose to interpret 30 years earlier, but mulberry trees trimmed low. So all the branches that shot up were in easy reach to be stripped of their leaves for the fat, relentless caterpillars. A silk farm. I imagine acres of black pellet poop making a crunchy road. The next scene at the farmhouse with a woman at a loom finally makes sense. The farming family's frustration with the poverty of patience. With a little research, I learned these trees in our neighborhoods are white mulberry, male clones that mostly produce pollen, originally brought to California in hope of silken wealth. The farms failing when it was learned how few held the patience and great skill to unspool a cocoon and sit at a loom. And the occasional white fruit that I chew on, just hermaphroditic sperm. And this one, got an old cat. I call her 20 years. She's on her way to 20. She's not 20 yet. Yeah. Call it Feline Dow. Another sunset. Head lifted. The 20-year-old cat body warm and shelter at base of Pittosporum in tall grass. I watched from back door. Her ears have failed, did not hear it slide open. Her eyes just slits. Even with poetic projection, don't invent feelings for the expression on her face, her nose due west. Thank you. And going to the birds, fairly self-explanatory. Black phoebe, sparrows, doves, finches, easily 30 birds, at least 5 species, hopping, pecking, rooting through recently mowed lawn. Bounty of bugs and seeds. The yard was not raked this year. Despite the mass of leaves from my unpruned mulberry, the weeds grown tall and unruly, you know, that yard in your neighborhood. Even a mole or gopher took up residency. Once stripped of all weeds, a neighboring tomcat camped out each morning waiting for his harvest. From the front yard to the back, territory fought over, numerous nests in Pittosporum, eaves, bottlebrush, tangerine, and mulberry. Eggs and egg shells of all colors and size scattered below their homes, the battles of abundance. And the last in this section is, thank you, Squirrel Conundrum. Squirrel orgy, rut, scrambling, dancing. Starting about 5 a.m., I can hear from the side fence to roof above my bedroom to mulberry tree and back. I go about my morning routine. Finally, at 9:30, I open front door and sit on front step sitting coffee. The spectacle includes squirrels charging from across the street to the mulberry. And all manner of squirrels, western gray, fox, eastern gray, all shades of gray, black and brown, nut-colored faces, some fluffy, some thin, some large, some small. No one seems to be leading this chase or dance, though some stop to chatter and others pause to listen, while others just bungle, bounce, and leap on. I want to explain this behavior, but it seems too scattered and occasionally fun to just sum up as territorial. Finally, I decide to record it. And as soon as I stand up with the camera on, the tree empties. A few back across the street, most onto the roof and side fence, up the plum tree in the backyard corner, and scramble along the cable lines in both directions. That night, sometime after midnight, I woke. What did the squirrels want to say? I'm now certain they're running across the roof above my bedroom was full of patterns, the starts and stops. Not a dance or race or an argument. A sort of code. Maybe they mistook me for a shaman of animal language, the yard's fertility, a sort of invitation. Would the message be personal for me, or a manifesto by the squirrel collective, demanding unpruned trees, lawns, unraked, or maybe a greater sharing, the solving of a cosmological mystery to see if we had any intellectual curiosity beyond our chattering and staring at bright screens. Okay, and then this last little section of the poem I'm just calling Recollections. And this first poem, a few people have told the same story. Matter of fact, a few comedians have even made this into routine because I just think it kind of naturally happens with the jukebox. But this poem is called Hang On Snoopy. We were out to eat, some interesting little Mexican restaurant in Milwaukee, and Gina found the cool places. The adults wanted to talk, so my brother, sister, and 4-year-old cousin Katie were sent to the jukebox, warm coins, buying parental time. Somehow we chose Hang On Sloopy. I found it amusing that they misspelled Snoopy, but the song was fun. We were dancing, singing, and acting silly. My brother did not like the song, so one of us, okay, probably me, Managed to reselect the song again and again, the delight of annoyance. Don't remember how many times it ran in a row. Enough that we had to promise something new would be played when we returned for more change. What joy. One brief Beatles and back to Snoopy. Feeling the glare of adults, but still dancing, still singing.
I'm not going to go song in my head.
There was a note shared by Nils in an email referring to a Czesław poem that reminded me of this moment when we were camping as kids. This is called Lake Superior, 1972. Family camping trip that starts with 5-mile hike to sight along some river. It seemed cruel to demand of these 5-year-old legs, and my father whining about my relentless requests to be carried. And then the trees aligned with a seductive view of Lake Superior. I left the path towards that bright blue light. Steady waves breaking on the blue stone beach, wind mixing the scent of pine trees and fungus, along with lake creatures and plants exposed on wave-washed stones. And these legs never asked to be carried again. And I've been really nice for a long time here. I just have to do a rude poem. This is called S'mores Suck. Let's just be perfectly clear. S'mores suck. Graham crackers do not work for sandwiches. They make the eating awkward at best. Dry and brittle are their two best traits. When a graham cracker is coated in cinnamon and sugar and dipped in cream, it's edible. And Hershey's chocolate sucks, really sucks. However, a marshmallow, when properly roasted, can be a delicacy, simple sugar and heat. I'll allow you to determine properly roasted. Putting them together is an abomination. Promoting their consumption only supports Boy Scout pedophile propaganda. Welcome to the truth.
I disagree.
I got a s'more fan in the audience.
I love s'mores.
I want s'mores too. What's wrong with you, Bill?
Okay, good. And so these last two poems, they're kind of the same. It's kind of like what I opened with. They're the same poem written, but like a year apart. First, this one's called Danger of Self-Awareness. Again, I know something and am blind, as the years of booze and decadence dim the lights. I ask old friends, Orpheus and Hamlet, Urizen and Ulysses, to unfold their maps. Lost in the desert, unmoored on the ocean. Either way, this throat is dry. The clouds in this brain block the stars that navigation demands. And I will close. Here's my last poem. It's called The Sybaritic. Notice the day. A New Year's resolution added to my calendar, popping up relentlessly every day, a 6 a.m. notice for a 7 a.m. goal, my preparation to frame some ambition of humanity I wish to apply like a balm for this aging heart and faded mind, the restorative wax to make this old paint brighter than new. For a month, these notices moved me, then faded to nuisance, even invisible. I'm surprised it lasted to the 5th month before deleting. What is not to notice about the dawn? The birds calling it to rise when still dark, the cold on my toes after pulling the covers off from 2 a.m. heat, the The bladder full, the cat mewing, the squirrels dancing, so many chores undone, undone chores ignoring my ignoring. It was not to notice, but stop denying. A discussion with my counselor as I prepare these papers, poems, petitions. A defense never resting. Before meeting the judge, the jury, pleading for a penance, a mountain of forgiveness out of grasp, like a morning fog burning off. Thank you so much for listening to me, and I'm glad some smart people haven't broken out in total anger.
I'm angry.
Well, Bill, thank